That says he delivered his State of the Nation address to the Russian parliament in Moscow.
We will not allow anyone to interfere in our internal affairs. The so-called West, with its colonial habits that incite national conflicts around the world, strives not only to hold back our development. Instead of Russia, they need a dependent, fading, dying state, a place where you can create whatever is beneficial. In essence, they would like to do to Russia the same thing they did in many other areas of the world, including in Ukraine. They want to bring discord into our home and weaken us from the inside, but they miscalculated. This is already absolutely obvious today. Their plans have collided with the firm position and determination of our people.
Well, mostly it was on domestic issues, progress, concerns, goals for the future. I'll get to that a little bit later. But there was an international bloc which will no doubt make headlines in the West. Now, Vladimir Putin started by addressing all the rumors and Western propaganda that we've been hearing for months, if not years, and that's regarding Russia's alleged plans to attack its neighbors, to attack Europe. And this is what he had to say about that.
Now the West claims, without any embarrassment, that Russia is supposedly going to attack Europe. At the same time, they are choosing targets for strikes on our territory, choosing effective means of defeat, as they themselves think. They talk about the possibility of sending a NATO contingent to Ukraine, but we remember the fate of those who once sent their troops to the territory of our country. But now the consequences for possible interventionists will be much more tragic. They must finally realize that we too have weapons that can hit targets on their territory. And everything that they are inventing now, what they are scaring the whole world with, all this really threatens a nuclear conflict, and thus the destruction of civilization. Don't they realize that? These are the people who have not gone through hard trials. They have forgotten what war is. To them, they think it's all some kind of cartoon.
This comes now after recent statements, of course, also by the French president, who said that Europe shouldn't rule out sending ground troops into Ukraine in order to guarantee that Russia loses, because there is no way that they can have that. Now, something else that we heard today is that Russia's opponents should remember about Russia's nuclear weapons and that the system is ready to go and will be activated if need be, but only in terms of defense. Now, another wild rumor that's been going around, in particular in the Western press, of course, is about Russia's alleged plans to send nuclear weapons into space.
Recently, there have been more and more unsubstantiated accusations against Russia, for example, that we are supposedly going to build nuclear weapons in space. Such allegations, which are nothing but allegations, are just a ploy to drag us into negotiations on their own terms, which are favorable only to the USA. At the same time, they block our proposal that has been on the table for more than 15 years, meaning the draft treaty on preventing the deployment of weapons in space, which we prepared back in 2008. There is no reaction. Therefore, we have every reason to believe that the words of today's American authorities about their alleged interest in negotiations with us on issues of strategic stability are demagoguery on the eve of the US presidential elections. They just want to show their citizens and everyone else that they still rule the world. They say that we will talk to the Russians on those issues that are favorable for America to negotiate.
Well, as we've seen the West trying to contain Russia economically, politically, we've seen Russia reaching out to other countries, building on existing partnerships, for example, with China. It's become one of its most valued partners over the last year, but also reaching out to other countries and building relationship or partnerships there. We've seen through an expanding BRICS, for example. There'll be more countries added into that, and there's a lot that's been said about the BRICS and, for example, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. These are the organizations now that are expanding. They're becoming stronger, and more countries want to join them. And all together, all these organizations, aside from the West, they actually make up more of the world's population, which is quite significant, especially when we see charts and we see that in figures, in numbers, and just how much of the world that encompasses. That just goes to show you that the West, it might like to present itself as the ruler of the world, but it's just a small portion of the entire of the world. And Russia has been making friends and allies with the rest of the world, which of course is quite large, no matter what the West would like to have us think. But another continent, I should say, not even country, a continent that's been in focus over the past year was definitely Africa. We also had the Russia-Africa summit, let's not forget. And the African countries are definitely going to be in focus a lot more in the near future as more business projects are being planned.
Together with friendly states, we will create efficient and safe logistics corridors to build a new global financial architecture on an advanced technological base, free from political interference. Moreover, the West itself discredits its own currencies and banking system. They saw the branch they've been sitting on for decades. We cooperate with our partners on the principles of equality and respect for each other's interests, and therefore more states are actively involved in the work of the Eurasian Economic Community, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, BRICS and other associations with the participation of Russia. We see great prospects in building a large Eurasian partnership, in combining integration processes within the framework of the Eurasian Economic Union and the One Belt, One Road initiative of the People's Republic of China. The real breakthrough was the Russia-Africa summits. The African continent is increasingly asserting its interests and the right to genuine sovereignty. We sincerely support all these aspirations.
So domestic issues took up, I would say, about 70% of the speech today. There was a lot being said about bringing down the poverty level from 9 to 7% by 2030. He announced a lot of national projects, the main one being the one called family, because, of course, Russia is all about traditional values. We're seeing population decline around the world in many countries, and Russia is, of course, one of them. So Vladimir Putin is talking about how to encourage citizens to have more children and to make sure that those families can be taken care of, so increasing all the benefits that come along.